I'm Lisa Shepard, and I am the Executive Director of the Chief Justice's Commission on Professionalism. The mission of the CJCP is to enhance professionalism among North Carolina lawyers, judges, and law students, a mission which it has been doing since 1998. One of the ways that the CJCP does this is to sponsor this historical video series, which is a collection of video interviews of distinguished lawyers, judges, and professionals from across North Carolina. The CJCP began filming these video interviews in 2000 as a means to preserve the thoughts of these bar leaders on the legal profession and on professionalism issues. All of the videos in this series are available to you on the CJCP website and the CJCP's dedicated YouTube channel. We are so fortunate to have had many distinguished members of the North Carolina Bar over the years, and they have much accumulated wisdom to share with us. It is important to understand that the practice of law is a profession, and doing it well requires not only substantive knowledge that one gains in law school and from studying for the bar exam, but also the value of experience learned from other lawyers. I hope that this video series will give you not only a fresh insight into the person being interviewed, but also some meaningful information about how to be a better lawyer in your own practice. Enjoy, and remember, esse quam videri. Strive to be professional in all that you do, rather than to merely seem so.
Good morning and welcome to another chapter in the Chief Justice's Commission on Professionalism historical video series. This morning we're in Greensboro, North Carolina, and we're going to be talking with Ms. Margaret Adams Harris, who has been an outstanding lawyer, public servant, wife, and parent in Greensboro. She's done many wonderful things, and we're happy to have the opportunity to talk with her this morning about being a lawyer and what professionalism has meant to her through the years. Ms. Harris, good morning, and it's good to be with you.
Good morning, Mr. Wright.
Tell us a little bit about where you're from and a little bit about your family before you became a lawyer.
Well, I grew up in a small town east of Reading, Pennsylvania, St. Lawrence. I was a member of a family of 4 children, the oldest of the 4. My parents were Pennsylvania Dutchman, although the name was Adams. It still had a good Dutch family background. I went to the schools in Exeter Township, which was where St. Lawrence was located, and Reading High School. My father was a county farm agent. He was from a large farm family of 15 children, all of whom 11 of whom grew to adulthood, and most of whom lived in the same area I did, so I had lots of family to grow up with. And
when you finished high school in the Reading, Pennsylvania area, I believe you came to North Carolina to college, is that right?
That's right.
And went to Duke.
That's correct.
At what point did you decide you wanted to be a lawyer?
Well, I guess the point occurred during my later high school years and when I was looking for a college to go to. I had a long time been intrigued with the law. In fact, I was intrigued with it before I knew what it was. My grandfather said that I argued so much and I asked so many questions I ought to be a lawyer, so I thought that sounded like fun. And I kind of pursued that through my high school years and looked for a place that maybe I would have a chance to pursue it, and Duke had a law school which attracted me as well as the undergraduate college.
You finished Duke, I believe, in 1940. While you were at Duke, were there certain challenges that you felt like you faced because you were a woman that some of the men didn't face?
No, I never really felt that way. There were only 3 of us women in law school, but each one of us were, determined we wanted to be lawyers, and our chief objective was to be able to do the work and measure up and I always felt accepted by the members of my class. One of the fellows, as they would say, we always had a good time together.
While at Duke, were certain principles of professionalism such as civility, honesty, ethics, integrity, and community service instilled in you?
Very definitely. Our professors were, several of them in particular. Judge Bryson, who had been a Superior Court judge, was very vocal about how we should conduct ourselves. And then we were required to take a course in ethics in our third year, and that great deal of emphasis was put on the way a lawyer needed to conduct him or herself.
I believe you met your husband when you were in law school or while you were at Duke.
That's right.
What was his name?
He was R. Kennedy Harris, Roger Kennedy Harris. He was from Newport, Arkansas. I was from Pennsylvania, and although he was several years older than me, he had had to drop out of school during the Depression so his brother could continue his medical career, degree career, and we ended up in the same law class. So that's where I met him and learned to know him well.
Now, I believe you decided that you would not go back to Pennsylvania or to Arkansas, but stay in North Carolina. Tell us how you decided to do that.
We knew that we wanted to practice law together if we could. We knew we had to make our way and earn a living, but we explored all possibilities. Ken did not want to live in Pennsylvania. I did not want to live in Arkansas. So we knew we liked North Carolina. So we studied the cities that we might choose, and we beamed in on Greensboro. It had so much to offer in the way of its atmosphere, the town atmosphere, the businesses in the town. It was the federal district court was here, the IRS offices were here. There were just lots of, and there were colleges that would offer opportunities. So we just chose Greensboro and then came over to look at it and decided this would be the place, with doing a little more background work.
When you came in 1940, had you decided that you were going to do a certain type of law or a certain type of practice? What was your practice like in 1940?
Well, in 1940, it wasn't very much like anything. We mainly were getting to know the people in the town, and the lawyers were very helpful to us. It was an election year, and one of the first pieces of business we got was Ken was hired by the Democratic Committee to help arrange for rallies around the county. But mostly our first work were opportunities given us by other lawyers, collection matters, special proceedings, title work, and it just evolved.
When you began, was there anyone that you considered a mentor, someone that helped you in getting started and handling things that perhaps were new to you?
I look back upon Mr. T.C. Hall Sr., who was then pretty much retired, but still coming to the office every day. His two sons were practicing law, and they were very helpful to us and befriended us. And I remember going to Mr. Hall with several matters. One that has stayed with me all my life is I took him a pleading I had prepared, and I asked him to read it over and make any suggestions. And he made one suggestion, and we made the change. And then he looked at me and said, "Now you must remember, whenever you make one change in a legal document, you'll have to make it at least 2 other places. So be sure to go back to your office and do that."
And you always remember that?
And I always remembered that.
Yeah, great. Did you concentrate in one particular area? What area of practice?
At that point, we did anything that we were able to do. Ken did some trial work. He defended a man accused of rape. I did not do any court work, but I was appointed a guardian of the property of some teenage girls whose parents had separated, and the father did not trust his wife to handle the money he was providing for their support and education. So I was the intervener there and helped with that. So there were all kinds of things. We did whatever we could that came our way.
As you continued your practice in Greensboro from 1940 to 1942, I believe at some point thereafter there was a break in your practice.
Well, those were the war started in those years, 1941, 42, and of course Ken faced the draft situation. And after thinking it through, he responded to a notice from the FBI that they were looking for attorneys to increase their force during the war years, and applied and was accepted. Then we had to decide what I was going to do, whether I would stay in Greensboro or whether I would we'd close our office and go on together. And we finally came to the decision that that we would stay together. So I stayed on and closed our office and got things transferred and stored, and then we went with him to New Haven, Connecticut, his first office. We decided to start our family during those years. So I was out for 10 years. I was a mom and basically a mom in the community with my children and my good husband. And so it was a different kind of thing, but after 10 years I was really ready to get back into the legal business. It was a big step, and it was a hard step to think that way again. But I went with the firm that my husband had then established with Bryce Holt and Mr. N.D. McNary.
I know you were very active in the community, and I'm going to read a couple of things that you were involved in, because not only were you able to manage and be a law partner, but you were also a mom and a wife and very active in the community. You were president of the PTA on several occasions, as I understand it, a den mother with the Boy Scouts, a troop leader with the Girl Scouts, very active participant with the Greensboro Board of Education, including being the first woman to serve as chair of the board, and subsequent committees, a trustee at Duke and other Duke alumni-related organizations, serving on the board of directors of the Young Artist Opera Theater and the Greensboro Chamber of Commerce, and the Greensboro Bar Association, involved with foreign exchange student programs, your local church as well as the governing body of that church, and so many community activities. How did you manage all of that, especially without all of the support elements that working mothers today sometimes have? How was it that you were able to do so many different things, to wear so many different hats?
Well, that spans a long period of time, so it's just kind of looked at as a picture right now, but it did involve a number of years, the service that I was able to participate in. I guess that first of all, having been out for those 10 years that I was out is when I had time to do Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts and PTA and church-related work more fully. And then when I went back in, as the children entered school, I had good help at home. In fact, I had a good helper who stayed with me till my daughter entered college. So that made a difference. And I just had a wonderfully cooperative husband and law partners who felt like that my time was well spent, so I did those things.
You served on the school board during a very volatile time in our nation's history, specifically during the desegregation and civil rights eras in the South, and you managed to provide solid, calm, and capable leadership despite all the turmoil going around you in a highly visible position. Share with us any thoughts that you have about those years and how being a lawyer may have helped you deal with some of those issues.
Well, they were very difficult years. We had a big job to do to integrate the city schools. We had found that the pupil choice program was not going to be accepted by the courts, and that we were going to have to integrate the schools. So this was a very, very demanding job. The fact that I had some legal background probably helped me in sorting things out sometimes that I would not have been able to do as well. But we had a wonderful school board. We were an appointed board at that time, and the 6 of us were appointed by the city council and one by the board of commissioners, because the Greensboro school district lines exceeded the city lines, so there had to be someone from the county on that board. We had good legal advice, we had good attorneys, and we had a wonderful chairman and a superintendent who all felt that we needed to come to an agreement among ourselves with whatever we proposed, or we certainly wouldn't have the community behind us. But that took long hours and a lot of discussions, and it was a very demanding time, but I think we came out of it as well as we might have. The last year I was on the board, the second to last year, the court case against us was dismissed, so we came out from under court order.
And did you feel like it was a valuable service and important not only to the community but also to you as an individual?
Well, I did. I think it was something we had to do in order to be in compliance and to give more opportunities to all of the children. And one of the first things we had done was integrate the teachers in a sense. We start sending some of our stronger teachers to the schools, the predominantly black schools, and that was in itself was a big step. But the teacher force and the administration was wonderfully cooperative with it.
Do you think public service is important for lawyers?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do. Because after all, they're the people that you're going to work with and serve professionally, as well as in a non-professional, well, not non-professional, but in a community-based manner. I think we have something we can offer to the community.
Do you see a difference between the practice of law today and when you first began?
Oh yes, definitely. There's so much more specialization than there was at that time. The demand for legal services is a lot greater. Of course, there are a lot more people around Greensboro now than there were in the other days. And I just think that the technology that we didn't have to work with is almost essential in law offices now. So there's a big difference in the way people practice law.
What advice would you give to students and law students who are deciding whether or not to go into law as a career, especially young women who plan to have families as well as a career in the law today?
Well, you're making a big commitment when you determine to be a lawyer and prepare yourself to be that. And it becomes a major part of your life, but it shouldn't be all of your life. It isn't all of your life. You still have your family and your community that will be a part of it and that you'll have a responsibility to. And I think you need to be prepared to face this fact and make sacrifices where necessary in order to achieve the goals you want in your life.
One of the main principles of professionalism is community service. Lawyers today usually claim to be too busy to become involved in things other than bar-related pursuits. How have you seen professionalism, especially related to community service, change in the legal profession over the years?
Well, I was encouraged when I studied that question to look at the many things lawyers are doing in the community. Many are on nonprofit corporation boards and serving that way. Many firms give legal advice to legal services to nonprofit organizations. I just think that there's a real field out there for lawyers, and I think the Bar Cares Committee, and I know that our Young Lawyers group gives services to an organization which deals with people with HIV and AIDS, and freely prepares papers for them, their wills, their powers of attorney, and I think that bars out there, through the Bar Association in particular, encouraging lawyers to be a part of the community.
And what advice would you give to young lawyers today, men and women, who are just starting out in the practice of law?
Pretty much what we've said before, that you need to make a commitment to do the best you can. You owe it to yourself and to your clients to be prepared, to know what the law is in the area that they're asking for help in. You need to know that you have more than life outside of the law office. You have more life outside of the law office, and that there is a big commitment made to your family and your community. Ken and I started out, we decided that we would always leave the office at the office. When we went home, we were part of our family and part of our community. And as he would say, there were times when the ox was in the ditch and we'd have to go back and do something about it. But it's important to keep your life balanced and to respect the needs of others around you.
The practice of law is extremely important, it's extremely demanding, but it's also important for you to have interest outside of the law so that you can be a well-rounded individual.
Very well said.
And of course, in our practice today, we've emphasized the importance of spending time away from the practice, and it'll make you a better lawyer when you come back, I think. When you remember men and women that you considered outstanding lawyers and judges throughout your career, what was it about them that set them apart in your mind and made them outstanding?
Well, I think it was the way they conducted themselves, and the way they maintained dignity in the office, and yet were could relate to attorneys in a fair and sensible manner. And I think they set the tone for what people think about the law and what lawyers are all about.
I believe you said you knew Judge Susie Sharp.
Yes, I did.
And she perhaps started a few years before you.
She did.
Tell us about your relationship with her and what you respected about her practice.
She was always forthright and open with whoever was before her. She was a good friend in many ways. She was practicing with her father when I first knew about her, then became a judge and was in Greensboro from time to time. And she always had an interest in what we were doing and how we were getting along, and always very encouraging to us. I thought a lot of Judge Susie. She kept her feet on the ground pretty well. She had marvelous stories to tell about her court experiences.
Are there other women that stand out in your mind from the practice that you dealt with through the years and had a great respect for?
I haven't over the years known very many women lawyers. Isn't that strange to say? But there haven't been a great many of them. But I have respect for every one of them. About 10 years after we came to Greensboro, two fine women lawyers, Elizabeth Rollins and Alice Watkins Corey, came, and I've been very good friends with them through the years, and admire them greatly. Doris Bray in our community, who was the first woman to serve as a president of the Greensboro Bar Association, is also one whom I have great respect for. And then Miss Edith Hayworth. When my husband was in the assistant U.S. attorney, Miss Edith was also an assistant U.S. attorney. She was from High Point, and that's one of the older women lawyers that I've really known through the year and had great respect for.
You indicated that both you and your husband were lawyers, and I believe you said y'all were married for 55 years.
That's right.
And you had 3 children.
That's correct.
Of your 3 children, were any lawyers?
Yes, both of our sons are lawyers. Our daughter showed no interest in doing that. But Mark is an attorney in Charlotte, and Tom is in Raleigh with the State of North Carolina Employees Association. I think I've said it backwards. But
You've been truly remarkable through the years to many people. And you may not be able to answer this question, but what thing or things do you consider your most outstanding contributions and achievements?
Well, I put my family first, my children and my grandchildren. Of course, that's my greatest pride and joy. I guess in service, probably my years on the school board, my 8 years were, a real service to the community. Another bit of service, I don't know if I'd mentioned it or not, but I enjoyed doing early on when I first went back in the 50s into the practice. I was appointed by the Greensboro City Council to be on a committee to establish the first domestic relations court and build the first juvenile detention home. There were 3 of us from Greensboro, 3 from High Point, and 3 from Guilford County, and that was an interesting, and I enjoyed that enterprise very much, and I think it's proved to be a very useful. Prior to that, children were being housed in our jail. Did you know that?
I did not know that.
They didn't have a section of it. They didn't, before we had the juvenile detention.
And what year would that have been approximately?
It would have been in the 50s. I don't know, just probably middle 50s.
And what all was involved? So it involved building a separate facility for the juveniles?
No, for the juvenile detention home, yes. And that's been in use until this past year. And then they decided that it needed to be a larger and better facility. It was out west of town, about halfway between High Point and Greensboro, near where Wendover Avenue is now. And it has served the community well, but I understand, I haven't seen the new facility, but it's east of town somewhere.
We are a self-regulating profession. Do you think lawyers can do more to enhance professionalism by having more personal contact with lawyers who are exhibiting signs of unprofessional conduct?
I think, yes, if you go about it in the right way, and that is a way of trying to be helpful rather than critical of what's going on. And if you're sure of your facts, that this person needs some guidance. And I believe, I understand the Bar Association is looking at a way to, the North Carolina Bar, to deal with that in each of the local bars. I think it would be a valuable thing to be helpful.
Do you recall any acts of professionalism that stand out in your mind that you'd like to share with our viewers today?
It was hard for me to come up with something in response to that question, but one thing that I was very appreciative of, when I went on the school board attorney, Mr. Bob Mosley, came to me. They hadn't had an attorney on the school board in a number of years, and he said he was going to share with me and send me all of the papers that he prepared for the board, and he would appreciate my reviewing them and making any comment I wanted about them. So I thought that was being real professional to a young attorney. Well, I wasn't so young then, but he was very nice about it.
And you certainly would want to be able to do the same sort of thing for others that followed you.
That's correct.
That's great. Well, Ms. Harris, thank you so much for being with us today and sharing these thoughts, and let me again congratulate you on a wonderful career as a lawyer and as a community servant and public servant and as a wife and mother.
Thank you very much. I'm really honored to be asked to do that.